Hello, and welcome to the About Healing podcast, a show created for those on or awakening into their spiritual journeys, and who are ready, wanting, and learning how to heal themselves. I am your host, About Healing medium and certified spiritual healer, Cherie Buckman. It is my purpose to guide others to the path of self-healing and to inspire those on their spiritual journeys in finding their truths. Join me as I share my experience and unfiltered perspective in healing, as well as the incredible wisdom of the loving energy that guides us. Let's begin. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of About Healing podcast. I want to go ahead and dive in with today's episode because I have a special guest for you who is ready and waiting. But before we go there and I introduce our guest, I am going to pull a card from the Sacred Self-Care Oracle deck by Jill Pyle. So the self-care card that I pulled for us today is movement. Create a clear energy flow throughout your body by introducing a new movement practice into your life. Structured or free-flowing, this could be anything from yoga, walking, qigong, sorry if I butchered that, to rock climbing, running, or swimming, whatever suits your tastes. With any movement practice, the most important thing is to tune in to how your body is feeling and move in a supportive way. Relish the feeling of being present inside your miraculous body. Diversify your movement practices so that you're walking in all areas of your body. Seek out a new or forgotten movement practice to help gently push the boundaries of your comfort zone. It's better to start small than not to start at all. Even if it's just 15 minutes a day, get your body moving in a way that feels exhilarating for you. And this week's journal prompt for movement is: what movement practice would you like to try but find excuses not to pursue? How would working through these blocks and moving more freely make you feel?
Have you been enjoying our weekly card readings? Well, then we have a special deal for you. We've partnered with goddessprovisions.com as an affiliate to offer you a discount on all their fabulous products. Receive 10% off your minimum purchase of $25, which can also be applied to your first subscription box. Use code ABOUTHEALING to apply your discount and support the About Healing podcast.
Wonderful and beautiful. So let's get on with the show. I've left you in waiting already. So today, I want to introduce you to another member of my wellness tribe. Laci is a licensed massage therapist of 18 years and owner of Moon Medicine Therapeutics, which offers therapeutic massage, yoga and wellness workshops, and an apothecary store featuring her very own blended medicinal teas, my personal favorite, plus so much more. And she is an activist of mental health and holistic wellness. Laci Holly is a friend and business peer with a unique, bright, and grounded demeanor who challenges and inspires me all the same. Welcome to the show, Laci.
Hello. How are you?
Good. I am so excited to have you on today. This has been a long journey coming, I feel. We've been friends now for a couple of years, and I feel shortly after we met, I put your name on my board of podcast guests.
Yes.
It has been sitting there for a very long time, but I think things have happened, and I think the universe opened up, and the timing is now perfect to have you on. And for me, what a perfect time to have this, especially during a season where I am talking about whole self wellness and my wellness tribe. You are definitely someone who is not only works in the business, but also is such a prominent member in my tribe. So I thought it would be interesting, just like I do with most of my other guests, is talk about how we met. Laci, would you like to kind of share that story?
Well, you walked into my shop. And I got that buzzy feeling like somehow you were important to my life, or maybe somehow I was important to you. Because I've learned over the years when those little zesty feelings, like it's kind of like buzzing, occur, that it's not just always that that person is for me. Sometimes it's that I'm for that person as well, or sometimes it's both. I didn't know what it was, but I knew you were somehow important. And I remember after you left that day, I put you in my cell phone as Cherie, potential new bestie. I don't remember. You were here for a long time. We sat down and had a cup of tea.
Mhm. Mhm. I remember because when I first coming into your store was a long time coming. Was new to the area at the time. I had just moved to this side of the state, and I have drove by your business. And again, you're small town. Like, you're smaller town than my small town. We're about 20, 30 minutes, apart from each other, but she's, like, on the way to Grand Rapids into the city. So when I do my Costco runs, I drive by her business. And it's a very slow part of the town. So you could just drive slow and really take in the sights, and I always saw her shop, and it stands out to me. I'm like, Moon Medicine Therapeutics, and every time I drove by, I get to see another piece of what her business is about. It's an apothecary, and I'm like, "Oh, one day I gotta stop in there because every time I drove by, I had kids with me. So, again, the one day I did, and I love the way you described it, Lacey, as, like, feeling this buzzing or, just having that because for me, it's a knowing. I think there's a vibration that happens, maybe a
Mhm.
zing. I like that word zing. It's a zing. And I didn't know either. And I believe like we instantly we she offered me tea. We got to sit in her gorgeous little patio and watch all the other slow cars drive by or yelling at the cars that they need to go slower. And we just had this huge in-depth conversation, and I think that was the most curious part of it, to just meet someone and to sit down to have that kind of conversation because there was this kind of, "I don't know why I'm so drawn to you. Why is this?"
Mhm.
And we just kept talking about all these other pieces, and it kept coming from every direction, and we're trying to find it. And I think we've still been trying to find it, and we've been a couple years now.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know exactly when, but I know it's been more than one.
Hold on, I gotta think about this. No, it's been 2 years.
Okay.
Only because I know because when I first stopped in, my daughter had just started kindergarten,
Ah.
and that's why I was able to come in, and she's in 2nd grade now.
Yeah, that makes sense because it was, shortly after the whole situation that had happened with that other person, and so
Oh,
I
yes.
was still quite raw from that and distrustful of psychics and mediums and that whole realm, but, I'm 45 years old. I have learned to trust that feeling when it happens. All of my closest friends and people that I love, except for one, I've had some version of that feeling, and, so I chose them. I do have one very close friend who we joke about how she, like, slid into my DMs on the sly, like, she saw one of my videos and was like, "That's my people," and so she just kept coming around to yoga classes and showing up and bringing me, like, cupcakes, and she lured me in, and it was funny because over time, I got to know her, so it was the opposite of that instant, "This person is somehow important." It was, like, showing me that there are lots of different ways that people can form bonds, and it doesn't always have to be this zing of lightning, because sometimes those can fizzle out. Sometimes they're not meant to be forever. Sometimes they're just a plane ride. And that something that they say is something you're gonna integrate into your soul for the rest of your life. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Because I have these conversations with people all the time, and I love that. And okay, so what I found was interesting there that you brought up was that now when we met and she brought this up, she was talking about she felt the zing, but also when she found out what I did, there was an aversion there. Isn't it interesting that maybe that was the reason why you had to feel such a strong buzzing sensation and attraction, otherwise you would have been completely averted
Mhm.
due to past history.
Yeah. If I didn't have that sensation, I would've written you off
Mhm.
and let you leave.
It's that's so funny. I have I have other friends too. Actually, I just had this conversation recently again. So yours is backwards, but most people who say, "If you would have told me what you did when we met, I would have gone the other way." But for some people, I wait a while because I know they need to get to know me first because they're not used to this side or the spiritual side or what I do. Because whether it's religion or just beliefs or whatever it may be, and that's fine. Once they got to know me and they found out, they're like, you opened my mind to how different people can be and understanding my judgments, and then if I would have known before, we wouldn't be friends.
No, but that's not the case. You walked in and you're like, "I'm a medium and I'm here." And I
Yep.
was like, "Okay, I might have to work through some shit."
Right. And you know it? And it's so true because during that phase, and I'm gonna be honest here, okay, and this is another part of our relationship, which I'm about to describe here in a second. But during that time when I introduced myself and I came on really strong and telling you what I did, because I was just going through the phase of not being afraid of telling people who I was and what I
Oh,
did, because I was terrified for a long time and I wouldn't tell anybody. Like I wouldn't tell anybody what I did and I would really shy away from it. So if someone asked me what
okay.
I did, I did this this little dance around what I actually did without saying it. So I had just gotten into getting comfortable or I was putting on my brave pants and saying it more often
Mhm.
and understanding if I'm drawn to someone or something, there's always a reason for me to say it. So maybe it came on strongly, but there was a reason why for sure. Cause again, we zinged and here we are.
As time will tell.
Right? So, and one of the biggest reasons too I wanted to bring Lacey on is we have found during the course of our relationship multiple things. Number one, we challenge and trigger each other all of the time.
Constantly.
And I'm not talking about just the light stuff. I mean, we really trigger each other.
And a shadow work, soul, gut-wrenching level, but we both have the same component, which I think is important in this kind of a relationship, in that we're both willing to set aside our ego and
Uh-huh.
we share how we feel, but at the same time, we're always taking ownership of our own emotional landscape and feelings and thoughts. Like we both understand that our triggers, that being triggered comes from within us.
Right.
It's from a story that we have integrated, whether it's from authority figures in our childhood or whatever. Like that was a really important thing that I learned in my life is that no one can make me feel anything unless I choose it. My feelings and thoughts are really the only thing I have control of in my life. My actions, what I say, what I do, what I think, how I feel. Everything else is an illusion of control.
Oh my gosh, that was so profound. Yes.
So, and I feel like you have that knowledge as well. So we both will set aside our egos and self examine, why am I being triggered here? Because it's not really her, it's triggering some story that I've told myself. Dr. Michael Rice calls it inner bags of garbage, which I think
I
is
like that.
perfectly appropriate. And so I think that's why we've bonded so much is the brutal honesty with each other. You get to
Mhm.
see my initial reactions, even if they don't wind up having anything to do with you.
Mhm.
And we do that. We bring that gift to each other. And I think that's one of the deepest bonding things that we have. What makes our relationship special.
Absolutely, and it's actually a very rare thing because I have found we're talking about how we bring triggers or we trigger each other. The funny thing I have found for me personally is that when Lacey's triggered, it triggers me. Only because it means there's something I said in the conversation that brought up a trigger. And for me as a healer and having this, again, like you said, it's this self-awareness. We have this self-awareness and we get outside of this. So let's go in and dissect this.
Mhm.
And we give each other the safe place to do it. Because again, we have this bond we can't explain. We just know we have this, I don't know,
It's a thing.
yeah, it's just a thing. Like we don't know how to describe it. But it's a safety zone too. It's a safety zone to truly dissect our the uncomfortableness and these big trauma triggers, and then we ask each other the hard questions. And I think that that was interesting. I think the first time the big trigger came, we were having this big discussion, and I remember leaving because I was giving her my perspective on things, but I didn't say it correctly. I wasn't bringing it up as my perspective, is that the way I was speaking at the time, it was coming off
Oh,
as like, "This is the belief, not my belief." I
I
was coming off
remember that. I know what you're talking about.
right.
As if you were the authority on how things were.
Mhm. Now, that was huge That was huge for me. And the thing is that when I left, she texted me and told me. And that took great courage. And I respected it completely. Because the moment she said that, I was like, I did what? And of course, it was like my own trigger. And then I was completely triggered. And I told her that triggered me. And you're like, oh my gosh, no. And then we were both like helping each other through this. But I think the big point there was is that we were bringing awareness on how not only in our own triggers, but also again for myself to bring that self awareness and to take that responsibility of something the way that I was speaking, even though that wasn't the intention and that's not how I ever wanted to speak. But it made me really think about how sometimes I get really passionate about things and how I was projecting it. And ever since that moment, it was huge. Lacey, that was huge because it really made me think about how I spoke, and especially on these very big, very personal subjects, talking about beliefs and all these other
Mhm,
systems. Because
mhm.
everything's a perspective and there's no one truth that exists. And actually, from that conversation, spiraled into me making a workshops now created about that. See, there was a bigger purpose for it, huge purpose for it, and we were able to talk through it, but I also took my responsibility for that part of the conversation too. "I'm sorry, you were so right. Now I know." And I changed.
Mhm.
But, we're growing and we're evolving. And so, oh, that's interesting. The moment I said that, I felt the zing in my back.
Growing and evolving?
Yeah, I think that that's a big part. I think you are a big piece in allowing me or giving me opportunity to grow and evolve.
Same.
Right. So I think that that's what we're doing. And then the biggest factor here is that we've been very, like you said, honesty. Honest is huge.
Authentic, not sugarcoating things. It's
Hmm.
not for everyone. Um, I've
No.
been I've been called aggressive by, yoga teachers. Like this one of my teachers, when I was in a yoga program, said that I was making people uncomfortable and that I was very aggressive. I stepped back and I looked at it. I always try to step in other people's shoes
Mhm.
because we are literally living from our own perspectives. All our bags of garbage is how we approach the world and live our lives. And they're all very different. And I try to step into other people's shoes and look at myself from her perspective. And I can see how, for folks who are afraid of confrontation or if direct honesty and me challenging your quote unquote authority, I'm not trying to be aggressive, but I am going to challenge when you say you're an expert on this, and I hear something that I'm also an expert in, like anatomy, and I hear you say this one particular thing that I know to be incorrect. I don't think that's aggressive at all. I think that a true teacher needs to be open to being challenged. Like you need to put your ego aside, trust your knowledge, but when somebody challenges, go back and refer and make sure that you know for a fact what you're talking about. Anyway, that was a tangent. That was a tangent.
No. No, that was beautiful. Keep going.
Where were we? Oh, that being perceived, the directness and that brutal honesty can feel to some like aggressiveness and it can feel overwhelming. But I truly believe that um, even though I'm not for everyone, that who I am creates an opportunity for people to self examine and grow. If you have the inner strength and fortitude to go inward and be willing to use that for growth and evolution, like you just said, that is a gift that I bring to the world. Not that I'm incapable of sugarcoating or approaching somebody with kindness, like trying to filter my words to make them gentler, but that's not my inherent nature. My inherent nature is raw truth because I tend not to trust when people sugarcoat. I want brutal honesty for myself. And the more you sugarcoat or pansy-foot around, the less I trust it.
And she'll call you out on it because she just did that to me, like, a week ago. I was like, "What?" And, of course, I was completely triggered by her that moment, and I was like, but did I sit in it for a minute? I totally did. But number 2, I took that and I saw that, I'm like, "Wait a second. Why am I being triggered in this?" And I saw Lacey and I just had this big conversation about this moment and what happened, but it was a massive growth moment for myself. And even Laci complimented on how I handled it.
You handled it beautifully.
Thank you, because history, past Cherie, before this self-awareness, you have to understand, hold even currently, I do not like confrontation. Confrontation is scary. And previous me would have ran away from it, or I would have people pleased my way completely through it. I mean, I wouldn't have had boundaries. I would have been whatever to make this go away. You're right. You're right. You're right. But it was a moment of growth to have beautiful boundaries and to have an honest discussion and then go about it. And that's the way that I'm starting to see confrontation is now. It's seeing other perspectives and then having a discussion about it. And that it's okay and beautiful. Not only that, it's healthy. And you can only have this and take this as growth and to find value in a relationship like Lacey and I have only if you are self-aware. It is
Mhm.
only if you are ready to have those deep conversations for yourself. It's not about pointing blame. Hey, you said this, you did this, you're wrong. We have never had those conversations. All of our conversations is this is how I feel. And then we kind of pull it apart. And I'm like, well, I feel this. And then we're like, oh, I didn't think of it from that perspective, and vice versa. And then we find it's like, oh, and then we find more self discovery about ourselves and
Mhm.
how we project certain, I guess, our beliefs or our side of
Mhm.
things.
One of my self-discovery processes in this, and coming to terms with who I am and what I have to offer the world, because as you're learning and growing and evolving, it's not a straight line. It's never a direct path. It's like a pendulum or a dance. And one of the key balancing factors that I had to incorporate was because I started out also very averse to confrontation because of my childhood. I had abusive authority figures in my childhood, and so that can lead to all kinds of self-defense mechanisms that we
Mhm.
learn. They become our inner bags of garbage, and one of those was overreacting to confrontation. So I had to learn and by overreacting, I mean my response was meanness. I would use the truth like a hammer, and that sometimes made me feel better in the moment. But as I started to grow and evolve on my own personal journey, I see that it didn't do anything for anybody else. In fact, it could harm other people. And I realized that I'm not about harming people. My whole entire life is about healing people. And so I had to learn that brutal truth and honesty does not mean that I have a license to be an asshole. Like, there is a line of utilizing, and I had to learn this. How do I use the truth and stay authentic to that piece of my soul without being mean? And that was the hard part that I had to learn. And I would go back and forth like, well, why am I this way? Why am I so aggressive or such an asshole or whatever it is? And I had to figure that part out, which is not always easy. And it's easy when you're doing shadow work. The trick is to not get stuck when you're owning the less flattering pieces of your soul. And I think that's why human beings in general are naturally averse to doing shadow work, because you have to dive into that. You have to, there's a reason it's dark and called
Yeah.
shadow work. It's not fun. And it's easy once you realize I am, I can be so mean and judgy. I'm a horrible person. Like, I am a terrible person. I'm no better than this person that I'm getting mad at.
You are not a terrible, horrible person. I have to insert
Right.
it right here. I can't let you say that. I'm like, nope, nope.
But my point is that it's easy to get stuck in that place of once
Right.
you accept this shadow piece of yourself, the trick is to not stay there. Like, it's okay to wallow, eat your ice cream, watch your Buffy the Vampire Slayer or whatever, binge what you need to. That's one of mine. And take a day to wallow, but don't stay there. Pull yourself up, buy your big girl pants, bootstraps, whatever. Put your big girl pants on and suck it up and own it. And the beautiful thing is, once you take ownership and say, this is who I am, it has less power over you. And that
Mhm.
is fantastic because then you're aware of it, you know who you are, and you get more choice. Like you literally get more control over who you are in your entirety than when you avoid doing the shadow work in the first place. That's one thing I learned too is the fear of doing something is always worse than actually doing it. And one I learned that I just need to, okay, what's the issue here? Just do it. Just tackle it and you'll feel better when it's over. Anticipation of scary things is way worse than doing the scary thing.
Yep, I'm gonna put it in here. I did a whole episode on fear, everybody, and that was season 2, and we actually talk about that, and I love it. The truth about fear,
I
yes.
need to go back and listen.
I find it interesting. I'm gonna put this little plug here in case anybody who is listening doesn't know what shadow work is. Shadow
Mm,
work is digging into the darker side of your personality, your being, because we all have the light side. The light side is what we're projecting onto the world, the way we wanna be seen.
mhm,
But the shadow side is what we keep in the dark, and usually what we keep in the dark from ourselves too. That when you're not in a place of self-awareness, or if you haven't gone through the awakening and really tapping into healing, like that's the shadow side is where you go. Those are all those dark secrets. And like Lacey said, it was finding that self-awareness to say that I'm judgy and I do all these things. That is part of the shadow work. So it's beautiful. And that is not for the faint of heart. That is for those that are ready to go on a healing journey into the deepest, darkest parts of your soul.
mhm,
Yep. It really is. And Lacey, I do. I want to put this right here for a second. I so appreciate your honesty and even telling us a part of that journey for yourself, because what I find is very interesting. The more you spoke about that and finding that awareness in yourself, I found again another reason why we are so, again, like have this attraction and this friendship because we are complete opposites. Now, you and I have talked about it before because Lacey is this extremely grounded person. And I'm attracted there because I am, again, floating and I'm always like, head in the clouds, and that's where I am. I'm very creative, and I'm like, "Ooh,
a
pretty,
kite.
shiny, shiny." And she brings me back, and she asks me the beautiful questions, and I love that she doesn't allow me to bullshit anybody. She's like, "Excuse me, ma'am," and then she'll ask me the question, like, "Really?" And I do adore that because it keeps me in check of making sure that, again, that I am providing and I am saying what I am trying to produce essentially. And but not only that, it's seeing again, Lacey, you spoke about your childhood and that your personality and how you were aggressive and you had this very blunt and raw honesty that you projected. That was your sense of control. That was bringing control to your childhood and what you were going through. And while mine, I had a very traumatic childhood too. I was on the opposite end of it. That where I went for safety and control, mine was people pleasing, and I would adapt to any situation or
Oh,
personality. And so yours was very upfront. This is, ooh, me. And you were very honest. I was the one that hid in the background. Like, I'm not even going near. You and I, we opposite ends of the class. Like, we wouldn't, opposite ends of the playground. I wouldn't go near you. You would be my worst nightmare as a child.
not necessarily. What do you have siblings?
Yes.
Where are you in the lineup?
I'm the eldest.
You're the oldest.
Yes.
So I was put in a position of the as the oldest of 4. I saw, my father was a very aggressive, domineering, controlling, and my mother was very passive aggressive, and she didn't do what was necessary to protect us. It took her a while to find her own inner strength to get to that place. In the meantime, I saw this empty spot that needed to be filled, and I stepped into it. And my whole life, before I went through my shadow work and healing journey, people would say to me, "You have such intense warrior goddess energy, very masculine energy." Like I got called masculine quite a lot. And as a 6 foot tall woman, that's not always really what we want to hear. Right. So it took a while for me to figure out what it was they felt from coming from me. And that's what it was. I Children shouldn't be put in that position where they are trying to fill an adult role. But that is where I was, and that is what a big part of who I am and how
Mhm.
I have incorporated those bags of garbage into being who I am. And I'm trying to shift the negative and utilize it into something, turn it into something positive that I can
Right.
use to heal and educate other.
And again, similar. I was put into a parenting role when I was in kindergarten.
You
And
were?
so yep, and
Okay.
so I took care of my younger sibling,
Mhm.
making sure some things again, divorced parents and working parents all the time where it was mostly me taking care of my sister. So I took on that role very young, and but for me, I've always been a caretaker, and
Mm.
I caretake, but to the point of, again, I never learned to take care of myself. And
Mm.
so that was a big part of my journey. See, again, similar journeys, just different
Mhm.
paths. And
Mhm.
that's why I think again we're being brought together because again we're in the self-awareness, we're in that healing factor that we're willing to be honest and grow and evolve and here we are.
Empowering our community with holistic choices for managing pain and stress is our motto here at Moon Medicine Therapeutics. Our services include massage, yoga and mindfulness classes, and my favorite, custom blended medicinal teas with sassy names like Rusty Guts for digestive issues or Calm Your Tits for sleep and anxiety. Laughter is powerful medicine, so drink it up with a comforting cup of down to earth herbalism. You can stalk me at moonmedicinatherapeutics.com.
And I find that amazing and fascinating. So again, finding a part of your journey and where you are today because you are again into finding that wellness. You've been doing the work for yourself and finding this beautiful balance. Uh, Tell me more about how you came to create or get into the business that you're doing now.
Mm. Well, as far as the massage therapist piece, I remember being a little kid. I was raised Seventh day Adventist. I have shucked all religion as an adult and stepped into this weird mindset that everything is God and God is everything. So I don't view God as a person per se, but that everything is connected to everything else. One of my favorite quotes it's from the Tao of Physics. I think it was Heisenberg. Things derive their being in nature by mutual dependence and are nothing in themselves. It's just one of those things that has informed my life. But I remember as a little kid wishing that I could heal people with my hands. That was the whole point of that little tangent. And if I could have a superpower, that would be it. Laying hands on people like Jesus did and healing them. I also wanted to shoot lightning from my fingertips and be able to end people. That has yet to happen. I'll let you know if it does.
Balance, I guess, just balance.
I find it interesting that I have, in fact, found a way to heal people by touching them. That is pretty cool. It's not the way I had in my head. But so as a child, you look at my high school yearbook, and on my picture below it, it says that my occupation is massage therapist.
Oh,
And
wow.
I went to boarding academy. My mom was obsessed with religious education, and in the girls' dorm, people would come to me. I had one gal who had headaches all the time, and she would come, and I would instinctively knew where to massage her neck to relieve her headaches. And it took a few years, but I finally landed on a school that specialized in trigger point therapy, neuromuscular and trigger point therapy. And I got a loan, a Sally Mae loan, and I went to massage school. I got my license. I still moved around a bit, but I took it with me. It was a pretty simple thing to transfer as long as you had all the credits and everything that needed to be, that was required. I went to Seattle and Pennsylvania, Alabama, and now back to Michigan. Here I am. And other things, aspects of my journey, like the yoga, I learned to love yoga through my own personal journey of wellness and the benefits of yoga. And then as I've always been a crazy plant lady into herbalism, so I've been dabbling in herbalism for longer than I've been a massage therapist. So one aspect of that has come into using tea, medicinal tea, herbs as a way to naturally heal yourselves. And then I incorporated my personality into the naming process
Yeah, you did.
because laughter is really powerful medicine. And if I can capture the frustrated feeling that people who are in pain, all kinds of pain, feel by a name, and I see it over and over again. You walk into my massage room and there's a frilly, flowery sign on the wall that says, "Relax, damn it." And that is a perfect example of capturing that feeling of frustration. I'm literally here paying you to relax me and I'm still cannot relax. Like, what more can a person do to relax than get a massage? And yeah, and so I've brought that to my teas, the names of my teas too, trying to capture the spirit of the tea. Like I have one of my favorites is warmth for your cold dead soul.
Mhm.
That's a big one. People like to read that. Or my oolong blend is the Fat Exorcist.
Yes.
Uh-huh. That's a oolong and chamomile and peppermint and holy basil. So
And then you have one, what is it? Feminine AF?
yes,
Yes.
yes. The description on that one, if you look at the website, was inspired. It says, "Soothe your inner bitch with this blend and take control of your hormonal hostage situation," or something along those lines. Like, yeah, I was really in the Zen flow when I I
Of PMS.
came up with that one. Yes. Some of the teas, I know the name and I have to figure out the herbs that go in it. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes I know I'll have an herbal blend. I won't have a name for it yet.
Yeah.
There have been a few that I've told my social media audience. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out a name for this. Help! And one of those was not your average tea.
Yes.
Hmm.
I love that blend.
Mhm. It's savory, it's not sweet at all, and it's very woodsy.
I think
So,
that's the one. What's the one when I was, like, sick or, like, had the chest
pulling
stuff?
things over.
Oh, that one.
If it's
That's
chest or lung, then it was probably pollen.
mm.
It's not your average tea is more like flu symptoms, headaches and fevers, and then the tingly tart is the, head cold, sinus allergy one because it's high in vitamin C and B. Mhm.
You guys are amazing. These are some of my favorite teas, and then, of course, first time I went into her shop, I saw I first of all, I love herbal teas are my jam. So when I go in there and she makes her own, and then they're for real purposes, like
Yes.
beautiful herbal blended medicinal purposes, and then add these her personality just stamped right on the label. You can just sit there and read her just dozens of teas that she has there. They're amazing. Anyway, the point of this is I love it. I really wanted her to share what she does because it's beautiful and that she has brought her own healing journey and her beliefs and didn't let her past form her or harden her. Instead, she decided to go deep within and do the hard work. Do the hard work of being honest and finding how do I become the person that I feel I want to be? How do I be that inspiration when you see these beautiful inspired people? How do you become that person? You do the work yourself. And I believe that Lacey is definitely doing that and she inspires me every day. And while we have spoken a lot about our challenges and our triggers for each other, the thing is that our friendship means the world to me and there's so much beauty in it. There's so much more beauty than anything else that we have in this relationship. Because the one thing I believe that we can agree on, even though sometimes we're in a trigger we probably don't, is that we feel safe. I know that I feel safe with Lacey. I know in the end, even if I'm in and I did something stupid, number 1, she's gonna tell me that I did something stupid. And then number 2, but she will hold a safe space for me and make me feel better too. Because again, I'm gonna go in on my own self and then she'd be like, "Oh, but sweetie, it's okay. Like you can be a butthead. It's totally
Mhm.
fine.
I
Just come
still
back
love
out."
you.
Yeah.
I still love
Just
you.
just own
Yeah.
it and move on.
I try to be the kind of friend that I want,
Yeah.
and suffering always gives us the opportunity to grow, and, I find that when we work through the hard stuff and we get to the other side, even though it's scary, it fills your soul in a way that nothing else can. It feels true and deep and safe, like you said. Safe. We can trust it.
So I want to thank you. Thank you so much, Laci, for coming on today and sharing your beautiful messages and your perspective and your stories.
Thank you for
And
having me.
yeah. And so for everybody else out there, if you want to learn more about Laci and her beautiful business and everything that she does, please visit moonmedicinetherapeutics.com. Don't worry, we'll put the link in the bio so you don't have to try to spell it if you don't know how. Totally fine. There you can shop her online apothecary and also learn more about her beautiful services. You can also follow her on Facebook and Instagram at Medicine Therapeutics. She's always fun and posts really funny pictures and also talking about her openings. It's very, very fantastic. Or you can, again, visit her charming and magical shop in Door, Michigan, if you happen to be in our area. Again, look her up, find the address. And I thank you all for listening. And I'm hoping that we are at least inspiring you or other people that it is okay if we have tough relationships, as long as we're able to be honest and move past that stuff, and that we should love and support each other and evolve and grow. And until next time, beautiful souls, be kind to yourselves.
Amen, sister.
With so much love and gratitude, I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode. My hope today is that the message continues to guide you along your path to healing. To learn more about me and my purposeful work, visit my website at abouthealingmedium.com. You can also follow About Healing Medium on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find the episode's healing guidance, quotes, tips, insights, and chances to win free stuff. To ask a question or to share comments, email me at abouthealingpodcast@gmail.com, or feel free to reach me on Facebook and Instagram at About Healing Medium. Until next time, be kind to yourself.